In the dusty courtyard of an ancient temple, a woman knelt in terror as stones were lifted above her head. Death was certain, justice demanded it, but then something impossible happened. A teacher bent down, wrote mysterious words in the sand, and suddenly every stone fell silent to the ground. What could be so powerful that it disarmed an entire mob thirsting for blood? What ancient secret was carved into the dust that made the most righteous men walk away in shame? Today, we journey into one of the most mysterious moments in biblical history, when Jesus wrote in the sand. And what scholars have discovered about those lost words will change everything you thought you knew about divine justice. Picture this scene: Jerusalem, dawn breaking over the temple courts. The religious elite, Pharisees, teachers of the law, men who had memorized every word Moses ever spoke, drag a terrified woman before Jesus. She's caught in adultery. The law is clear: death by stoning. But this isn't about justice. This is a trap. You see, these religious leaders faced an impossible problem. Jesus was stealing their authority, exposing their hypocrisy, turning the people against them. They needed to destroy him, so they crafted the perfect snare. If Jesus said, "Stone her," he'd violate Roman law. Only Rome could execute. He'd be arrested as a rebel. But if he said, "Let her go," he'd contradict Moses himself. The people would abandon him as a false prophet. There was no escape, no middle ground, no way out, or so they thought. The woman trembled in the dirt, her life hanging by a thread. The accusers stood tall, stones ready, voices demanding judgment. Every eye turned to Jesus, waiting for his words to seal either her fate or his own. But Jesus did something that shattered every expectation. He knelt. In the dusk beside this condemned woman, the Son of God bent low and began to write, not with ink on parchment, not with a stylus on wax, but with his finger in the sand. The same finger that once wrote the 10 Commandments. On stone. The crowd pressed closer. The accusers grew impatient. "Teacher," they demanded, "what do you say? Should we stone her or not?" But Jesus just kept writing. What words could be more important than answering a life-or-death question? What message was worth carving into dust that would blow away with the next wind? The Bible doesn't tell us exactly what he wrote, but ancient texts, scholarly traditions, and the very response of those who witnessed it give us clues that will astound you. Some of the earliest Christian scholars believed Jesus wrote the secret sins of each accuser, their names paired with their hidden transgressions. Imagine Nicodemus breaks Sabbath in secret. Caiaphas steals from temple offerings. Joseph commits adultery with his neighbor's wife. But there's something deeper here, something that connects to the ancient mystical traditions. In the Talmudic writings, there's a concept called writing in dust, a reference to divine judgment. The prophet Jeremiah spoke of those who turn from God being written in the dust because they have forsaken the Lord. Could Jesus have been invoking this ancient curse not against the woman, but against her accusers? Other scholars point to the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, which speaks of Jesus knowing the hidden sins of the heart. In that dusty courtyard, he wasn't just writing words, he was unveiling souls. But here's where it gets truly mysterious. In the ancient Hebrew tradition, there was a belief that certain sacred words, when written by the finger of God, carried supernatural power. The same finger that wrote, "Thou shalt not kill," was now writing in the sand. And then Jesus stood. The entire courtyard fell silent as he spoke words that would echo through eternity. Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." What happened next defied every law of human nature. The oldest man among them, perhaps the chief priest, a man who had spent decades judging others, stared at whatever Jesus had written in the dust. His face changed, like someone suddenly remembering a sin they'd tried desperately to forget. Slowly, his fingers opened, the stone fell to the ground. Without a word, he turned and walked away. Then another, then another. The sounds of stones hitting the dust echoed through the courtyard like a funeral dirge for self-righteousness itself. Why did they leave? Because in that moment they encountered something far more terrifying than any Roman punishment or angry mob. They encountered the mirror of their own souls. You see, Jesus hadn't just written their sins in the sand, he had written the human condition itself. He had revealed that the same heart capable of condemning others was itself in desperate need of mercy. The trap they had set for Jesus became the trap that caught their own hypocrisy. The law they wielded as a weapon became the very thing that exposed their unworthiness to wield it. But here's the truly shocking part. Jesus could have destroyed them. He could have announced their sins for all to hear, humiliated them before the crowd, crushed their authority forever. Instead, he wrote in the dust, giving them a private moment to face their conscience and walk away with dignity intact. This is the mystery of divine justice. It doesn't seek to destroy, it seeks to transform. Soon, only two people remained in that dusty courtyard: the woman who expected to die and the man who had just saved her life. For the first time since this nightmare began, Jesus spoke directly to her. Not about her, not around her, but to her, as a person with value, with dignity, with a future. "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "No one, sir." And then came the words that changed everything. "Then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." Listen to the power in those words. Jesus didn't ignore her sin or pretend it didn't matter. He acknowledged it clearly, but first, he offered her what she desperately needed: mercy. "Neither do I condemn you." These words washed over her like water in a desert. No condemnation, no stones, no death, just mercy. And then he gave her something even more precious: hope for transformation. "Go now and leave your life of sin." He believed she could change. He saw beyond her mistake to the person she could become. This is what made Jesus different from the religious leaders. They focused on punishment. He focused on restoration. They wanted to end her life because of her sin. He wanted to give her a new life beyond her sin. As that woman walked away from the temple courts, her steps must have felt lighter than they had in years. The shame that had crushed her spirit was lifted. The fear that had gripped her heart was gone. She had encountered something that defied every law of human justice: perfect mercy meeting perfect truth. But this story isn't really about what Jesus wrote in the sand. It's about what he writes on human hearts. Every time we're tempted to pick up stones of judgment against others, we should remember those mysterious words in the dust. Every time we feel crushed by our own failures, we should hear his voice saying, "Neither do I condemn you." The accusers that day learned that none of us has the right to condemn others when we ourselves need mercy. The woman learned that no sin is too great for divine forgiveness, and we learn that the God who could destroy us with a word chooses instead to write mercy in the dust of our broken lives. What did Jesus write in the sand that day? Perhaps it was the names of the hypocrites and their hidden sins. Perhaps it was a verse from ancient prophecy. Perhaps it was simply the word mercy, written over and over again. But maybe, just maybe, what he wrote was your name, and mine, and every person who has ever stood in that courtyard, holding stones of judgment while desperately needing grace ourselves. The sand has long since blown away, the temple courts lie in ruins, but the message remains. In a world quick to condemn and slow to forgive, divine love still bends low, still writes mercy in the dust of human failure, and still offers the words that can change everything. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. What stones are you carrying today? What accusations are you ready to lay down? And in the silence of your own heart, can you hear the whisper of the one who still writes mercy in the dust?